This is a demonstration of the main menu system for the 9211A sampling oscilloscope. The main menus are along the bottom of the main display, and these are the main menus. Sub-menus then appear on the left hand and right hand panels. So if I do a left click, say, on the trigger menu appears in the left hand panel. If I do a right mouse click on, say, markers, then the marker menu appears in the right hand. So we can select menus left and right. So if I select with the left mouse or mouse click channels, here we see the menus for channel 1. So I will apply a signal to channel 1. So here we can see a clock signal has appeared in channel 1. So the first thing I might like to do is to change the display mode. So I'm going to do a right mouse click on display, and here we're in the dots mode, so we can see the dots. I'm going to select vector mode, so we've joined all the dots up, so we have a vector display. So here's channel 1. The display, we can turn the display on or off, and it is at the moment on 200 millivolts per division. So I could increase the sensitivity, say, to 100 millivolts, or I can put it back. You can also pick and drag waveform, so I can move the offset. So here we can see the offset reading, and if I drag it with the mouse, it changes the offset reading. The bandwidth is on full, which is 12 gigahertz. In fact, we can see this across the top of the screen. So this particular instrument has a 12 gigahertz analog bandwidth, and on this particular time base we see we're sampling at 10 gigasamples per second. This is channel 2, color coded in blue. Again, a 10 gigasamples sector. We're in the vector mode, which we just selected from the display menu, and we are triggered, and we're in an external direct trigger mode. So if we now go and look at the trigger mode, so I do a left hand trigger, so here we can see doing an external direct trigger. If I selected the prescaler input, which goes up to the full 12 gigahertz bandwidth, it is untriggered now because I have no trigger source on the external prescaler. So I will select back to the external direct, and we now have a triggered waveform. So this is in a free run mode, so it always forces the instrument to do a sweep and trigger. If I select trigger here, it is triggered now because we have a waveform. But again, if I remove the waveform, we see now it's got not triggered. And if I go to free run, though, it will force a trigger, so there is always a display. So I'll go back to trigger mode and apply my signal again. So there we see my clock signal in the display. So now I'll select acquisition menu. So here we're in sample mode. So if it was a repetitive waveform as a clock, we can do averaging on the waveform to reduce random noise. For this case, I'll leave it in sample mode. We can have a save and recall menu, so I can save setups and save waveforms. So I'm going to go back to the main menu. So this is the main save recall menu. So I'm going to save this waveform into memory 1. We have 4 memories available, so I'm going to say save waveform. So now I have a saved waveform in memory 1, and if I move the acquisition channel down, we can see underneath, here's the memory, and this is my live waveform. So I'm going to turn off the memory again and move up my waveform. So this is my live acquisition waveform. The other menus available, we have markers, we can do measurements on board, limit testing, maths on the acquired waveform, we can produce FFTs, we can zoom in on areas, we can do histogram measurements, eye diagrams, mask testing, and we do have function generators available on the rear panel, and the instrument will also perform TDR, and these will be covered in section 2.